folks, and welcome to Paddock Pass, your post-qualifying edition for the 2019 US Grand Prix here in Austin, Texas. The race weekend in which Lewis Hamilton can seal a 6th Formula One world title. But it hasn't got off to the start that he would have wanted. He's not on pole. We won't tell you who is until the end of the show, even though you probably know already. But this is how things shaped up here at COTA, starting, of course, with Q1. Track limits had been an issue all weekend, particularly down at T19. A number of drivers having laps deleted for going all the way over the curb there, all four wheels off the track and over the reds and white curb. So that was something to be mindful of and to be watching all the way through quali. No surprises, though, as to who is in 20th place. Robert Kubica lacking grip. Not really a very happy day for him. P19, Sergio Perez. Starting from the back anyway, after he was handed a grid penalty for a bizarre thing that happened during practice. So team told him, come in, we're going to do a pit stop practice. So Checo's absolutely gunning it in like he would do in the race. Blah, blah, blah. Comes in, goes past the weighbridge, and suddenly the team say, no, you've been called to the weighbridge. So he stops, and then he says, what do I do? And they said, well, keep going. So he went to the garage, but as he pulled in front, the team too late said, don't go to the guys, because the guys were waiting for Lance, because they'd switched. Lance was then going to do the pit stop practice. But it was all too late. Checo went in. The team thought they were supposed to be doing the pit stop practice on Checo's car. They touched the wheels, removed the wheels, and even though they put them back on again, he fell foul of the regulation. Because the car had been touched, because the things had been changed, before he went to the weighbridge, he starts from the back. Team took the opportunity, though, to fit a whole new power unit, all the components to the car. So a silver lining, at least for Checo, is that he has all new power unit components for the run-in to the end of this season. But he hopes that will be enough over the next couple of races to make up for a very disappointing start to the weekend here. P18, George Russell, about where they expected to be, he said, in terms of the overall pace of the car. Unfortunately, it's been horrible through the corners all year because it lacks downforce, but then at the same time, it's also really draggy, so it's not very good on the straights. Ipso facto, this one's horrible for them. P17, Kimi Raikkonen made a mistake, lost 0.3 of a second. P16, Antonio Giovinazzi. Going to talk to him because it's the first time all year that Alfa Romeo have failed to get both cars into Q2.
Was not good for sure. I think we expect a better result, especially after P3. I had the issue on DRS, but Kimi was P8, so at least Q2 was possible. But this didn't happen. From my side, I think I did quite a clear lap, but not enough to go on Q3.
So that is how Q1 ended. Kubica P20, Perez 19, Russell 18, Raikkonen 17, Giovinazzi 16, which took us through to Q2. Into Q2. Usual suspects fighting it out. The Renaults, the Haas guys, the Toro Rossos, and a Racing Point. Ultimately, Romain Grosjean. We're going to speak to him because it's really interesting how his weekend's gone. He qualified in 15th place, one place behind Lance Stroll, who said it was pretty much where they'd expected to be all weekend. I think, being realistic, they might have expected to be a little bit higher, but Lance says that's where they were expecting to be. Danny Kvyat, more comfortable all year in the race car than he has been in the qualifying car, but he said something just clicked for him in Q2 and he felt much happier. The car came alive. P13 for him. P12, Kevin Magnussen, actually pretty optimistic, pretty happy. Massively disrupted weekend for him, running new sort of wings and aero levels on the car, doing a lot of testing throughout the weekend, still trying to get on top of the balance issues they've had all year. He reckons, though, in the ballpark for points and starting P12, you've got to agree with him on that. P11, Nico Hülkenberg, not completely happy with the balance of the Renault, but only one place out of the points. It's not a bad place to start. Romain Grosjean then, let's talk to him. Starting P15, tough weekend for him.
I think that was the complete maximum of the car. We did P15 in Q1 and P15 in Q2 was the maximum. We've had a complicated weekend with a brilliant car in FP1. Then FP2 we tried a different aero package that obviously had some massive issue in high speed. Reverted back to the FP1 package in free practice 3. Unfortunately had some rear wing issues. So we had to change the rear wing to another spec for quali. And I was losing, I guess, half a second on the straight. So it's not much you can do.
So that was Q2. Grosjean P15, Stroll 14th, Kvyat 13th, 12th for Magnussen, 11th for Hülkenberg, which took us through to Q3. Into Q3, of course, it's the usual suspects, the big three, Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull, who we expected to fight for pole. But what about Pierre Gasly, who had been looking brilliant all weekend? actually looking around P6, P7 for the majority of the running. And also, what about the McLarens? Because Carlos Sainz was looking good. Even better, though, was looking Lando Norris, who had topped Q1 in P1. Could they throw a surprise? No, but it was a really great session, really fascinating session. Pierre Gasly ultimately finishing in P10, said the car feels good, but he's got to start on the soft tyre, and that is a worry for him. Daniel Ricciardo said he's lacking downforce because he's about 10 kilos lighter this year because he only turned up to Austin on Thursday and hasn't been able to eat as much barbecue as he usually does. Next up is the McLaren, 7th and 8th. Sainz is 7th. Said a good recovery after a tough start to the weekend. P8 is Lando Norris, and we are going to hear from him because I thought it was rather good what he said. P6, Alex Albon in the Red Bull, final lap deleted, reckon it could have given 0.3 of a second. P5, Lewis Hamilton, blaming himself, not a happy bunny, like really not a happy bunny though. And that's because the only man who can beat him to the title is on pole. P4, Charles Leclerc, never happy when he's beaten by his teammate, but particularly so when you consider that he's had this run of front row starts. He starts P4. Let's talk to Lando, P8. Good stuff from him. After topping Q1, disappointed to fall behind his teammate in Q3, but much to be hopeful for McLaren this weekend, although as Carlos Sainz pointed out to us, the big hope is that they don't have a repeat of Mexico, where they qualified so brilliantly, tyres dropped off in the race, and it all went to hell.
I think qualifying is a good, strong point for us as a team and our car. The race then it becomes a bit more difficult. So I think as a team we always do the good and we extract pretty much the most out of the car in qualifying, which gives us always good positions for the race and everything. But our car isn't as nice and as easy to drive as I think compared to the Renault and the Toro Rossos. They have a bit more of a drivable car, whereas ours is a bit more on the edge, which we can get away with in qualifying, but struggle a bit more in the race. So it's going to be a tough one tomorrow, but we do our best. I think, I hate saying it, but the best of the rest will be our aim.
All of which brings us to the top three. It was a wonderful fight, a wonderful battle. Ultimately, the final runs didn't really make much of a difference. It is three drivers from three teams occupying the three spaces. Max Verstappen in P3, Sebastian Vettel in P2, Valtteri Bottas, the only man who can stop Lewis Hamilton from taking the title, on pole position.
For us on this track to be this competitive is very positive, and it shows that the car was working really well. So yeah, not much to complain. I think Q3 in general for everyone was a bit more tricky than Q2, but still to be P3 and actually that close to P1 for us was a good result. Of course, you would have liked to be P1 on that margin, but it is what it is.
You can turn this one into a win, can't you?
Yeah, I think so. So obviously I focus on my race, and first of all on the start, maybe we have a chance to pass Valtteri there and then take the lead, and then it's usually a bit easier to take control of the race, but that's a long way away from now. So we first of all have a look what we were missing in qualifying and then prepare the race.
Just when you needed it.
Yeah, well, felt really good. Had lots of fun. Since this morning I felt a lot better than yesterday. Yesterday was a tricky day and managed to really turn the car around to make it drivable and quicker for sure for today. And yeah, during the qualifying I saw the lap times and I knew that with a good lap anything is still going to be possible. So managed to find like a just very nice flow for the first run in Q3. Got everything together that I wanted around the lap, and the lap time was good.
Big question going into the race tomorrow is you've got a Ferrari behind you that's very quick on the straights. Have you got enough through the bendy stuff to keep that advantage? Yeah,
for sure. The start is the first opportunity for them as well, but just need to keep focusing on my own doing. Try to have a really good start, and the best thing for me then is to have a really good sector one before the back straight. Try to get a bit of a gap. So that's something I'm going to be focusing on, and then we'll see. It should be a fun day, and there's all the possibilities still in the world. So let's see.
So that's a lot from Paddock Pass here in Austin, Texas. Can Lewis Hamilton do it in tomorrow's race? It's going to take something very special from Valtteri and something terrible from Lewis's race for it all to play out, for the mathematics to play out. But Valtteri is starting from the best possible place. He's on pole position. Can't wait for the race.